a forever existence. And really, we just showed up. We've been here for a relatively short period of time as a species, as human animals, and certainly as individuals. So I've let go of the hope. I've let go of the fear. I try to make the world a better place for non-human organisms in the future so that they can persist longer than they might otherwise have persisted. And for me, I try to live in the now. Somebody at a recent presentation asked me to summarize the 50-minute presentation I just delivered in 3 sentences. And I'm thinking, yes, I'm in the United States, let's call it Twitter Nation. 3 sentences. Why did I speak for 50 minutes? So you could just sit there and numbly watch the world go by, just so you could ask me in 3 sentences what I said. And I said, no, I can't do that in 3 sentences. I can do it in 3 words, though. Live here now. And I said, if you want, I can do 3 sentences too. Live. Live now. Live here now. And so that's the message I want to leave you with. I would love to have a conversation. So please, if you have questions or comments, bring it for me. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have time for 1 or 2 questions or comments, and then we have to plug you on out of here.
Afternoon tea is in back.
Right, afternoon tea.
5 minutes of questions then.
Okay. Anybody?
Questions or comments?
So it's not quite my response to the end of all humans. My response to the feminism that was presented in university sociology is divided between recognition and agreement, hate and fear.
A microcosm of the whole system then.
I heard hope is dope as well.
Hope is dope.
Hope is dope.
One I like
Knowing is the one. You
Yeah.
have to know and focus on the outcome, don't you? And just adding to that hope, the whole hope and belief. And hang on, our Prime Minister, if you listen to him when he gets asked those tough questions, the crux of the answer is always hope. I believe. That's the trick. And he never will answer it. It was always going to be hope and belief. And you just watch it. That's the only thing that's not in the script that he reads, because he goes, at the end of the day. And it's always hope and belief.
Moving forward.
Always.
Moving forward,
What I can say is,
yeah.
But remember, we've got 120 of them all talking the same crap.
Yes,
there.
yes.
There's not one truthful speaking politician in the world, really. Certainly New Zealand.
Just a question, if perhaps hope does exist, it's obviously we're not going to win. And you don't fight fascists because you're going to win, you fight them because they're fascists. And we can't really change what's going to happen. I mean, those with the most money and the biggest guns always win. Eventually, history proves that. But perhaps the only way to delay the effect on human beings locally and personally is almost a return to a commune or a way of living not dependent on the supermarket, not dependent on the internet, not dependent on any of these things which are ultimately going to be taken away from us. And would you agree that that's perhaps the only action that could be taken that might change outcomes personally or delay them?
Yes, and I think it's not a bad idea anyway, in light of how close we are to failure of industrial civilization. And so more than 7 years ago, my wife and I moved off-grid and share a property with another couple and their young son. So we live on 2.7 acres, just about a hectare, a little more than a hectare, where we're capable of growing all of our own food. We have 2 solar pumps and a hand pump and extensive gardens and a big orchard and a well-insulated straw bale house and an outdoor kitchen, a wood-fired cooking stove, and the whole thing. So that's what I did, assuming that since I'm a a middle-aged white man and a university professor, that everybody would just follow my lead. And so I still think that's not a bad idea, but I would only encourage somebody to pursue it if they actually love to live like that. So I think at this late date in human history, we should pursue what we love.
So when the collapse comes, that's no protection, because the guy next door that hasn't prepped for what's coming will just take what you've got.
Well, maybe. I don't think we can predict that outcome either. Where I live was near the end of a road that terminates in a box canyon in an extreme rural area. And so it's hard for me to imagine that the marauding hordes are going to show up and successfully take away our
It only
food.
needs one utility full of gun-bearing yobbos to take it all away from you.
Well, yeah, it could be that that's how it turns out.
Yeah.
But that's not the kind of future we can particularly plan for
Yeah.
very well. And so I think if we're going to plan for a future, we should try to create that future. And people ask me about the marauding hordes and when they're going to show up and when collapse is going to come. And collapse has come already to a lot of people. Collapse came to Michigan in the United States quite a long time ago. You can buy houses in Detroit now for $1. Because Detroit is done economically. And so can we live alongside each other relatively peacefully? Maybe some people can in some areas. Maybe not for the longer term. The history of civilization indicates that we can't actually all get along. People ask me about the zombie hordes and when they're going to come, and I point them to the closest shopping mall and say they're already there.
So I would like to ask myself how we add in doctors, dentists, hospitals and education to our rural survival lifestyle.
Well, I think we're going to go back to a more basic way of living that focuses on health instead of medicine, and recognizes that some diseases are indeed lethal in the relatively short term instead of in the very long term and millions of dollars later. So again, at some level it all comes down to, in fact, we are all going to die, and even if we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to sustain our lives for another few days, we can do that now. But in the future, we might not be able to do that. And that's going to be a lot easier and a lot more comfortable for people who are comfortable with their own personal philosophy that includes the termination of their own lives than it's going to be for people who are denying their own death. And in the United States, at least, we have an incredibly death-denying culture. We kill everything that gets in the way, but we deny death is ever going to happen to us. Well, of course not. I think we have time for one more question, Pam? Okay, so final question, then we'll go to coffee, tea. And I'll be here for as long as we're able to be here.
We're coming back upstairs, are we, Pam? Yeah.
Okay.
After afternoon tea.
So there'll be more questions after tea.
One more question here.
Go for it.
It's not really a... Is this on?
Nice and close to it.
Yeah, it's not really a question. It's just one of the things I'm sitting on and working through is how to approach this whole subject with my two stepdaughters. And it's really, I just want to say it's really good to see you two girls here. And,
Absolutely.
and yeah, it's really just, you two have been the big light of last night and today, just to see you smiling there and being part of it. So it's been really important for me. Yeah. My two stepdaughters are 11 and 13, and they know what I think, but I'm not sure how much of a prognosis for the planet to give them at this stage. So,
Yeah, that's tough, and I appreciate how difficult that must be as a parent. I'm not a parent myself. So I can't really put myself in your shoes, but it must be overwhelming. When do you have conversations about important topics in the lives of young people?
Always.
Yeah, can I answer that? Because I've got young children, and I think the best example that you can be is just being who you are, and also keeping lines of communication really open about it, because the truth is they are going to be faced with this stuff, so you have to be honest without being kind of fearful, you know, just being who you are, having open. They can handle it if you present it.
What we can see.
Yeah. And these are the ones that are going to actually take their truth forward. They're not going to be watching Justin Bieber tomorrow.
Thank you all. Let's have
Here's Justin Bieber. I do know Justin Bieber as well.